I learned from the best. Tom taught me everything I know. So I am going to talk about, originally I just looked at the title and just pulled random interesting cases. I didn't even know I had to talk about complications. So this is a patient that came in. I'm very conservative. Actually, if I were more aggressive, I might get more complications and probably better results. But I treated this patient. She paid all this money, and she didn't look any different. So, and I was using the laser that everybody loves to treat pigment. It was a Q-switched alexandrite, the Alex Trivantage, since it's not CME. So I turned it up, and then that's what she looked like. She's like, now I paid all this money. She said, dude, what are you doing? And it literally took me 8 months of topicals and 3 treatments with the 785 nanometer Pico laser to get this to resolve. And what did I learn from this? Well, if you look, and this is horrible, but if you look here, melanin is amazing stuff. It absorbs all the way into the infrared. But it absorbs, this is a log scale, so it absorbs much more strongly here. So if you're using a KTP laser, success might be at, say, 2 joules per square centimeter, but failure is at like 2.3. The longer you go, the more leeway you have between success and failure. So I've started using the 785 nanometer Pico laser a lot more frequently because I think the range between success and failure is greater the longer you go. Why not use 1064? I think because it's too long. So that's one thing I learned. I learned that from Dr. Rohr. So I saw this patient with overly aggressive CO2, and if you start treating these with laser right away when they're in this kind of thick stage, you're wasting their time and their money, and your time, to be honest with you. So I always flatten them first with intralesional steroids. I'm not aggressive, so a lot of people mix it with 5-FU, for example, to get rid of atrophy, but I really don't see how you can justify doing that in women of childbearing potential. We got a lawyer in the front row who can speak more to that. And I asked Tom Rohr about it, and actually he doesn't worry about it, but I do. This is another overly aggressive CO2 you can see down here in the chin. And this one I flattened with some intralesional as well as topical steroids, and then pulse dye laser, followed by one of the fractional lasers, non-ablative fractional. This is PIH from overly aggressive non-ablative fractional. This was 7 years after treatment. So if you think PIH always goes away, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, it does not. This patient came to me, actually was a lawsuit, and I said I wouldn't get involved, so I couldn't really help the patient either. But you can do wonders. I would treat this patient with aggressive conservative topicals, AHA combined with a mild topical steroid, as well as a low energy. I'd use the 785 Pico. You could also use the 755 Nano or Pico to gently, low fluence, gradually lighten this up. This patient's unbelievable. And my fellows who are here, they got to find this picture. So this woman came in, she had a vessel treated with 1064. It made a big divot because there's not a lot of hemoglobin absorption in 1064. So you have to use high fluences, and often you'll get this depression. Believe it or not, I just treated this with topical AHAs and pulse dye laser every 6 to 8 weeks, and it fills in. I'm telling you. I sent a patient to a Mohs surgeon. It wasn't Dr. Rohr, but easily could have been, for a tiny little seb. They were going to shave biopsy it and get rid of it, and there was like a major divot. I don't know what they thought it was. I mean, it's like a really good Mohs surgeon. He must have been sleeping or something, made a huge divot. Patient was furious. And I treated with pulse dye laser. My fellows have seen it. Lisa's seen it, my nurse. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it. It literally filled in over time, and it was not doing it by itself.
What settings do you use for that, Eric?
Typically, I would use 3 milliseconds, but if you have the V-Beam Perfecta, it doesn't like 3 milliseconds. So you either use a per perk setting with a low fluence, like 1.5 millisecond, 5 to 6 joules, or you can use 6 milliseconds with 6 to 7 joules per square centimeter, like 10 millimeter spot, and just repeatedly treat it. My favorite is 3 milliseconds. You can use a 7 millimeter spot because the fluence, you're not pushing the laser hard. 3 milliseconds, 6.5 to 7.5 joules per centimeter squared, 7 millimeter spot, 3 milliseconds with a Perfecta. You can also use a KTP. This is Big Red. Patient calls me, I got big red. A very bright dermatologist I've worked with for years sent me this person with this big red, cross-polarized, regular picture. I said, you know what? All I do is treat laser for 30 years, tons of vascular. Something's not right. Send it back to this derm. For whatever reason I don't understand, he biopsies the periphery. Typically, you biopsy the periphery of things that are destroyed by the process at hand. So erythema multiforme, all these rashes that kill the internal, you biopsy the periphery. Here, you don't want to biopsy the periphery. Tom knows that. You go right where the money is, right? So then I sent it to a dermatologist, because we don't do general derm, and they biopsied this Lenigo, or whatever this is right here. So finally, I sent it to Joe Sabanco down at Penn, and he went right where the money was, and this was a little squamous situ. So, you know, it had seen a bunch of derms. There's no such thing as cleared by a dermatologist, right? You're responsible for what you treat. Know what you're aiming at. I already talked about that. Oh, really good learning here. So first thing, 1 minute, 58 seconds, I got you. There's a clock up there. If you have an allergic tattoo, we used to always inject these with steroids. I talked to Jeff Dover about this, and, you know, give antihistamines. But there are case reports, even with CO2, of systematized allergic reaction, like whole body, life-threatening allergic reaction. These people in immunology say it's impossible. It's type 1, type 4. It's possible. These are people I trust. What Brian Zellickson taught me, I don't inject these anymore, because the injection itself distends the dermis and irritates it more. Topical clobetasol, like the strong steroids, topically work better than injected steroids. I just learned this recently from Brian. And the other thing is, it was shown long ago at Penn by Jim Layden, if you use an AHA or a retinoid with a strong steroid, you'll negate the epidermal atrophy that comes with that. So you can give long-term strong steroids in combination with AHAs and not get atrophy. But this is a patient I treated a black tattoo. Allergic reaction only after treatment. I wrote this up. Her whole back got red for 3 weeks. I got to see what happens when you treat an allergic tattoo. It was like a nightmare, and it left scarring, and now I can no longer treat this. And of course, this was the wife of someone you would all know, of course. Flew out from LA, and she really understood this. The person that you would know didn't understand it so well and thought I was a moron, which Tom was kind of trying to share earlier. And one of the last cases, this is fractionated 1550. The Fraxel. It's almost impossible to scar somebody. There were 2 scars here. This is in a dermatologist's office. A lot of derms like to say it's never us, but that's like a driver's license. Doesn't make you a good driver, but it does give you a level of competency, but not necessarily in laser unless you come to Haslam's. They went back and forth over the area, created these scars, but we treated them with pulse dye laser and made them one better. I'm gonna just tell one more pearl. When you're treating a tattoo, green ink responds way more strongly to 1064 than black ink. It doesn't remove it. I'm going to say it again. When you're treating a tattoo with 1064, Q-switch to Pico, it reacts way more strongly in the green and causes a scar, but it does not remove the green. Avoid green ink with 1064 when you're treating tattoos. Thank you.